Aaron, good afternoon. Firstly, let's talk about this link people are making between what we heard at the State Capture Commission of Inquiry and the sudden action by the Hawks to arrest at least some of those that have been implicated. But the Hawks are saying this has been a long time coming, in fact, 10 years coming.
Yes, afternoon, Kathy. We understand from the words of the Hawks spokesperson, Brigadier Hangwane Mulaudzi, that this is the product of long and ongoing investigations into Bosasa. But of course, the timing does raise questions, not least because of the evidence that's before the Zondo Commission and the fact that one of the accused who appeared in court today and was released on 20,000 Rand bail is Angelo Agrizzi. Two others who appeared before the Commission as well, Andries van Tonder and Frans Forster, also witnesses before the inquiry. But someone we hadn't seen before, at least on camera of late, was Patrick Gillingham, the only person from Correctional Services who has been charged amongst that group. And interesting to hear that the state prosecutor in Court 19 today at the Specialized Commercial Crimes Court said that the state hopes Linda MT, the former commissioner, will be in the very same court tomorrow.
Aaron, let's talk about the statement that they've also issued. They've said that one of the suspects is overseas and that he's been informed that there's a warrant for his arrest, and another suspect in Port Elizabeth, and that plans are underway to bring him back. Do we know who those two suspects are?
Well, Kathy, there are names that are floating around, but out of journalistic responsibility, I think it better not to bandy those names about until we have official names on record from the authorities. We do understand that there are some movements in Port Elizabeth involving the Hawks and their teams, and as we heard from that state prosecutor earlier today, they do anticipate Linda MT will be before the Commercial Crimes Court in Pretoria soon. So I think best to just hold our horses on that front until we have official word.
Well, certainly one of the things that the Hawks will also have to answer, Aaron, is the length of time that this case has taken for them to prosecute. But as we heard from Angelo Agrizzi's testimony, that much of this testimony, especially as far as it goes into why there were delays in prosecutions. We heard about the alleged bribes that were given to Nomgcobo Jiba and Lawrence Mkhwebi. We heard about the monies that were also allegedly given to Nomvula Mokonyane to secure political protection. So even as far as it relates singularly to the Bosasa matter, there seemed to be reason for the Hawks to arrest at least some of the political figures that are involved. Why has none of them been arrested? Why are there seemingly no charges?
Well, it's an obvious question, and it's the very question I put to Mulaudzi of the Hawks when he and Pindilo Mjonondwane gave a briefing after the appearance of those 5 accused. He said that this is the product of the investigations done by the Hawks and specifically the Commercial Crimes Unit in the Hawks, and that, you know, there's nothing untoward in the delays. That's a very bitter pill to swallow, knowing that the SIU handed a report to the National Prosecuting Authority back in 2009. Almost a decade ago, and that very report recommended criminal prosecution of the likes of Patrick Gillingham, Linda MT, Angelo Agrizzi and Gavin Watson, who I must emphasize is not amongst the accused at this point. And so there was that question. I asked it, and other journalists also pressed the Hawks for whether there was political interference. And Mulaudzi's response to me during that briefing was not that we know of, which is not quite the same, Kathy, as saying no, there wasn't any political interference. And certainly on some of the evidence we've heard before the Zondo Commission, there are questions around what kind of political strings were pulled during the last administration.
Aaron, just lastly, the SIU report looked into a particular period where correctional services contracts were involved in the 2000s. Do the Hawks have any plans in terms of extending the scope of that investigation now that we know how much longer it has potentially gone on for?
Well, what we have at the moment is information on 2 indictments. That's why the accused have been grouped into one category or one group of 3 and another group of 2. But it's all related, as you say, to those correctional services contracts. And on the paperwork that I've been able to go through so far, it's over 60 pages for the one indictment, a slightly shorter court document for the other. These relate to 4 contracts with correctional services, the very same contracts that are in that SIU report and which were the subject of some of the testimony at the Zondo Commission. But as for broadening the scope, looking, for example, at the Mail and Guardian reporting on the billions of rand Bosasa continues to make out of government, certainly a question there on whether or not they will broaden the scrutiny that Bosasa and correctional services currently face.
All right, Aaron, let's leave it there for today.